Welcome to Fintech Daydreaming, the podcast that dives into the world of banking technologies and the ever-changing landscape of fintech companies. We bring you real-life examples from global and local thought leaders, as well as experts working within the financial industry, and seek out the best stories from the front lines of financial services innovation, where dreams of industry pioneers meet reality. Hosted by Krogdahl and Ville Sointu. This is Fintech Daydreaming.
Hey Ville, how's life?
Hey Paul, life's good.
We're
We're in the middle of the holiday season, so getting nice and relaxed and getting ready for next year.
Did you have a good Christmas?
I did. I got some good Christmas presents. I got the chance to spend the Christmas with my family. Of course, it's always a nice time of the year to kind of sit back, take a little bit of distance to all stuff fintech and work, and think about something else for a moment at least. It's a time for reflection, I would say.
I've done a load of that. I've relaxed. I've spent time with family. I've spoiled my children. I've eaten way too much. I probably have drunk a little bit too much. And I've done no work whatsoever. And, we've had a little bit of a relaxed time as well on the podcast. So it's nice actually to have a chat again and just reminisce on the year we've had and look forward to next year. I think it's been a fantastic year, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this is the first time we're talking since Christmas.
Yes.
And I think it's always fantastic to see you, my friend. And I'm really looking forward to a great next year. But as you said, this year, we're still in 21 as we record this. Mm-hmm. It's been a really, really up and down year, but nonetheless interesting. I think from a podcast perspective, we've had some really, really nice guests, big guests, a lot of new listeners into the podcast. We've seen growth all the way. I think we have evolved the format of the podcast a little bit. Yes. I think we're. Do I dare to say we're becoming maybe a little bit better than we were in the beginning, which I guess is a natural evolution. And it's been a fantastic year. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next year.
Practice makes perfect. Or so they say, right?
Yeah, indeed.
I don't know. I was trying to think, do I have a favorite guest from the year? And it's really hard. I don't think I could actually say that I've had a favorite guest or a favorite episode. We've even had some guests on twice during the year. In actual fact, we've had two guests on twice during the year. I think it's been really good. I think there's been some common themes. I think we've spoken an awful lot about crypto, digital assets, platforms, open banking, platformification. I think next year, do you think we're going to see the same sort of things, or what do you think is going to be the big discussion point from your perspective next year?
I think all of the things you just mentioned are going to continue. I think especially from a legacy bank perspective, I think a lot of focus is going to be on how do we actually evolve open banking forward. We're talking about embedded finance, open finance, you pick your term, but in a way, it's always about evolving the narrative beyond just platforms, beyond just APIs. How do we actually become, how do the banks, I should say, become part of the workflows of their customers and their customers' customers? And understanding the new digital age where the relationship is no longer one where the customer comes to the bank always, whether that is just a digital channel or the physical branch itself. Now it's all about the bank needing to reach out to other places to be basically more proactive in a lot of these interactions. And we talked about this numerous times during this year. And I think this discussion is going to evolve a lot during next year. But in order for us to bring some new things into the equation as well, we've a couple of times during this year, we mentioned the metaverse, of course, as introduced as a mainstream topic by Facebook or Meta now during this year. I think we're going to see a lot of lot of conversations around the metaverse and what is the metaverse in context of financial services? Does it mean anything? Is it going to be anything? I think even that question is still open. So I'm looking forward to see how the metaverse conversation will evolve. The reason I think it's just maybe not a quick to pass thing is because big tech companies are investing a lot in this space. So regardless of what happens, that investment it's gonna mean something. At least we're gonna get clarity on what the metaverse actually is and how do we build it, or is it just a repackaging of what we already have in terms of 3D online games, or what is it going to be? Yeah. And linked to the metaverse, the other thing that I really look forward to seeing being under discussion next year is the Web3 phenomenon. There's two camps. Basically, everybody is saying that Web3 brings the notion of digital ownership onto the Web2 narrative, which is all about interactive web. And the critics' corner, so to say, is saying that, well, Web3 is only making what we already have perfectly functioning in Web2 and making it a casino, effectively trying to monetize everything on the web. And that might not necessarily be a good thing. However way the discussion is going to go forward, I think what we're going to see is much more clarity on both of these topics during 22. But what about you, Paul? And what do you see in the horizon?
It's interesting. First of all, you mentioned about the Web 3.0. I think Web 3.0 is going to be a big discussion point during next year. I think we're going to see the continued evolution of Web 2.0 towards Web 3.0. Blockchain is becoming more and more mainstream, and I think we're generally moving away from the discussion of blockchain's the answer now, what's the question, and looking more at, we've got business problems to solve, or we've got identity problems to solve, or we've got ownership problems to solve, whether that's, NFTs and digital assets, etc. I think we're going to see a continuation in this journey. I think absolutely we've come to realize that cryptocurrencies, digital assets, digital currencies are here to stay in one form or another. I still think that discussion is going to continue, and we're going to see a heightened focus on central bank digital currencies. I think we're going to see a heightened focus again back onto the use of blockchain, but now more in relevant contexts where we're talking more about the business value of it. And that's going to underpin the whole discussion of Web 3.0. And your statement there about, monetizing everything, I'm wondering whether it's more about aligning ownership and identity and ensuring that we can trace and validate and confirm data ownership and where it's come from, more than just monetize on it, although there is an element of monetization on it, which becomes easier once you start being able to identify ownership, etc. I mean, part of the discussion of NFTs, right, and the game we're having with NFTs. But from my perspective, I am focused and have been focused for a longer period of time on the platformification of banking. And I think we've been on this journey, like you alluded to. I think next year is going to be where we really start seeing major change and adoption around platforms, platform business models, and the platformification of the banking industry. We've been on this journey. We've had the hype curve of open banking. Open banking has gone through the journey from being in many regions driven by regulation, PSD2, other regions picking up on it as a way of trying to drive competitive advantage, misunderstood the ability of driving open APIs and engaging in a platform economy. The biggest issue has never been about the technology. It's been about how do you adopt your business models to be able to take advantage of engaging in a platform economy and as a platform business. And that's very alien to a lot of incumbent banks, like you pointed out. I think some of the fintechs and some of the big techs, particularly some of the big platforms, already understand how to engage in this paradigm. But the banks, particularly the incumbent banks, have had a painful journey with this. And I think next year we are going to start seeing the pendulum swing. And I think we're going to really see this evolution from basic open banking, like you said, into embedded banking, embedded finance, open finance, however you want to categorize it, but really also the ability to look across wider spectrums of not just banking capabilities, but how can you combine basic banking capabilities with adjacent industry offerings to give that sort of holistic client centricity and client journey around, almost conscious banking and platforms in general.
Yeah. I'm almost tempted to start just talking here about all of those topics, but I think what we want to do here is that we want to lay out the plan for 22 for Fintech Daydreaming.
Yes.
Basically, what we want to say is that a lot of these topics we're going to bring some really interesting guests, and we're going to try to challenge them with some of these questions that we just laid out, and let them challenge maybe our notions about the things we just talked about. So I'm going to save some of my talking points to the upcoming season, and we've been busy planning the next season, at least the let's say the first batch of episodes for the next season. And I can only say, just as a teaser, is that we're going to have some really big names in the very beginning of the season, and then we're going to kind of even it out with more geeky, maybe nerdy episodes, just to make sure that our fintech nerds feel at home still listening to us. But so what do you think about the lineup we have so far for next season, Paul?
I'm really excited about the lineup. We've got a few people that I really want to try and get onto our lineup for the next season, beginning of next year, that are being elusive, I would say. But it's a good challenge, right, to try and get some of these people on. And we've had a few people that have reached out to us, as always, and said that they believe they've got valuable content to bring to the show. And I hope to pull them along as well. It's always fantastic when our listeners and the wider community reach out to us and say, we'd want to come and join the show. We've got something to share, or I've got a fintech idea that I'd like to share with the world. I always think that's really cool as well, and not just have the big industry, high flyers and big hitters. It's been fantastic to have likes of Brett King, Paolo Saroni, etc. on the show. But sometimes it's also nice for us to be able to use the podcasting platform as a way of helping people to get visibility and get their message across to the wider community.
Yeah, I think the balance is important. I think we of course want to have all the usual big names like you just mentioned, Dave Birch, Jim Roos, to add to the list maybe. Yeah. And they always bring a lot of entertainment and their own audience to the podcast, and that's always great. But to me, actually, maybe the most interesting episodes that we've had are actually the people that you didn't really expect much of when they came on, and you thought that, well, is this going to be an interesting conversation or not? Are we actually going to be able to have an interesting discussion? And then it turns out to be fantastic. And these kind of surprise guests are what we really look forward to having next season as well. And then the one thing you mentioned about the, let's say, more interesting guests that might have been a little bit difficult to get to the podcast. So what we've learned, of course, is that when you deal with companies that are very careful about their communication, it takes a very, very long time to make sure that they're comfortable joining the podcast. And yeah. I'm really looking forward to making sure that, first of all, that our guests who do join us are absolutely comfortable talking with us, but again, also from our perspective, making sure that we are compliant with all the requirements from the communication departments of these companies. So again, maybe hoping to bring some of those guests next season. We'll see.
Maybe we should just put a poll out there and ask our listeners, do they want more high flyers, or do they want more of the unheard of startups that are trying to get their hands in or step into the fintech world? Maybe a balance of both would be good, right?
Yeah. Let's ask the audience. Let's put up a poll. And now, dear listener, when you're listening to this, I hope that we will already have the poll up, at least on LinkedIn and Twitter, and hopefully you'll be able to go in and vote. What do you think? What types of guests should we bring on? We will then take that as an input, and we will of course make sure that the lineup matches to your expectations.
Yeah. Ville, we need a joke. We can't have an episode without a joke.
Yeah, I guess we do. The problem is that we don't have a guest today. But,
no, that's true. So let me think of so Ville, why did the bank owner buy a cow?
As a stable asset, I don't know.
that's a good one actually. Or to beef up security.
Perfect. Not too bad, actually. I think,
you know, Ville. I mean, this is perfect for us in fintech and banking and everything else, right? If by the way you don't have any interest in banking, you're not alone. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right? The audience moment to kind of digest that.
Why did the skeleton not rob the bank?
Couldn't hold a gun. I don't know.
He didn't have the guts. Oh, that's enough Christmas cracker jokes for this year, right?
Oh dear. Ending the year with a bang with the jokes. I gotta say that.
Yeah. Oh well. So next year, some more episodes. Do we need to change anything else? What do you think?
More thrilling moments, expecting everything to fall apart as we record these things. That's always a little bit of fun when things don't work out, whether that is the bad lighting in the room where we're recording, or whether it's the microphone breaking up, or bad connection, or any type of other things that we've seen. Unfortunately, we don't actually have a blooper reel because, as you know, dear audience, we always record as is, and we put this out unless there's like a major disaster, which hasn't happened yet. Hopefully, it doesn't happen.
What do we categorize as a major disaster? We had Paolo Saroni disappear halfway through one episode. We had my daughter ring me through another episode. We had the battery power. We had me having to subscribe to Zoom halfway through an episode, right? Because we were running out of credits.
Yeah, and that was, by the way,
we categorize as a major incident then.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite one, when we had Brett King, kind of our first real big guest from Fintech Star in a way. And then we have Zoom subscriptions running out as we are recording the episode, and you're trying to make the payment as we're having the conversation.
Yeah, I think we pulled that off quite nicely, actually.
Yeah, and you can see that. You could go and watch it on YouTube, and you can see that there might be a slight kind of panic in the eyes of Paul, who was doing it, but we managed. So I'm proud of that.
Yep, we did. Now I think it's going to be a good year. So absolutely. What's left now is to celebrate this year, close out 2021, and kick off 2022.
The only way is up.
The only way is up.
Really looking forward to continuing the opening up of the society that we experienced already here towards the end of 21. Unfortunately, of course, with the new variant, things took us a few steps back at the very end of the year, but I'm hoping that it's just a temporary measure. And I will be able to meet many of you in all kinds of events, conferences where I'm speaking or I'm just visiting. By the way, I'll have to give a shout out to everybody who I met at the Slush conference at the beginning of December here in Helsinki. I actually had a few fans coming up to me who I'd never met before and said, hey, I'm a big fan of you. I love Fintech Daydreaming. And that was like a big moment for me because having people recognize you, of course, it's very flattering. It means that we're reaching the right audience, at least.
We need to get t-shirts.
Conference. We should get t-shirts and then we should hand these t-shirts out whenever anybody comes up and confesses to being a fan. So looking forward to all of those beautiful moments with you, dear listeners, next year. And most of all the fantastic guests that we're going to have throughout the year.
Yes. And with that, we'll close off this last episode for this season, for this year. Say thank you very much to all of our fantastic listeners, all of our fantastic guests. And most importantly, please don't forget, what do they have to do, Ville?
They have to click that subscribe button on the podcast application of your choice. And of course, on YouTube, where you can enjoy our beautiful faces as we record these episodes. And of course, our more beautiful guests as they are recording on video as well. And then finally, of course, please leave a review, especially if it's a 5-star review. If you write a review, that really helps our FinTech audience in finding the podcast. So please write a review, especially if it's a positive one. We appreciate the feedback and the visibility that gets us.
We do. We really do. And we're doing this for you guys. So let us know what works, what doesn't work, what you want more of, what you want less of. Some of you are loving the jokes. Some of you, we've been told, really think we should drop them, but it's become a stable part of the podcast. So we'll keep the jokes for now, but let us know if there's anything else that you would like us to change, more of, less of. Apart from that, we hope you have had a fantastic Christmas, if you celebrated Christmas, or just a festive season with your family and loved ones. And we look forward to catching up with you all next year. This has been Fintech Daydreaming.
This is Fintech Daydreaming.